coming in today to talk to me. Basically, all I want to talk to you about today is effective communication and how you use communication in your line of work as a professional sportsman, both on the field and off the field, and really any techniques that you use to be an effective communicator in your field.
Yeah, people might think that communication is a big part of being a sports person, but it really is. Being able to communicate within a team with different personalities and being able to make sure they get the most out of their performance, but also dealing with people from the other team, because cricket's a worldwide game. Playing with different cultures is obviously different aspects and different ways to communicate with them as well. So it's a big part of what we do.
Okay, so would you say that culture and communicating effectively with diverse backgrounds? I know that you've played games against India, and who else would you usually communicate, and how would you communicate differently when you're in a situation where I guess you're up against a team such as India, for instance?
Yeah, one specific example sticks out in my mind. We played against Pakistan a few years ago, and obviously Pakistan have various religious beliefs. And in one game, they had to pray to their God during a lunch break, and we actually had to stop play and go on 10 minutes later than we would normally against other cultures. So it's about understanding that people do things differently across the world, having a communication process and respecting what they do, and also realising there's going to be different situations where you play around the world.
Okay.
It's also about building a rapport with these people as well. Otherwise, you won't have more games in the future with them unless you have that two-way street, I guess, when it comes to communicating.
And I know that you've recently been chosen to be a part of the leadership group within the squad. What sort of, leadership skills do you possess that you would use as a good communicator? Why do you think that they had picked you over someone else?
As I said earlier, having an understanding of how people operate within your own team is really important. Some people respond to communication in different ways. So, for example, there's some guys in our team need to have their tyres pumped up and given plenty of confidence before games, and that brings out their best performance. But also, some guys like to get a bit of a razz and a bit of a get them fired up for the game. So it's about having that rapport with each other and understanding what gets the best performances out of those players. So that's the biggest part of communication, and what I do is within the group, because we're all working towards the same goal, having a clear-cut communication process to get the best out of our players.
And I can imagine it would be, like you said, trust and respect within the group, and as a leader you're someone who sort of starts that and builds that relationship within the group. Is there times that you feel that you need to communicate a bit more sensitively and show empathy, I guess? How does that affect your effective communication?
Because of what we do, sometimes poor performances lead to you being dropped, yourself or different teammates. So when that does happen within the group, and it does happen plenty of times throughout the year, you need to be able to show empathy, understand that what we do is a very specialised thing. It's different in the sense compared to doctors and things like that, but our performances are critiqued. So when someone does get dropped, it's a tough process for them, but also for you because you're your teammate and we're all good mates. So having the empathy and making sure they get back on the right path and back to performing, that's a big part of the leadership group. That's what we're about, and bring out the best in their performances.
Okay. And would you say that there are any techniques that you might need to work on to become an even better and more effective communicator?
Definitely. I think, again, having an understanding of what works for different people, I think having the courage to stand up and be heard. Communication, you need to be seen to doing the right things, getting out there and voicing your opinions, understanding the various social norms that are around in the game, again, playing with different cultures, but within the team also understanding what works for each player and being able to consistently provide the same feedback each time.
Yeah, and I imagine it would be sort of another different scenario where you'd use communication against the media. So when someone after a game pulls you aside and comments on how your performance was, I understand that you're not only reflecting yourself, you're reflecting the team and I guess Queensland cricket as a whole. Do you use different techniques when you're being interviewed to show how you're an effective communicator?
Yeah, certainly. I think you need to. There's certain things you can say in the media, certain things you can't. And again, it's about delivering your message as a team to the media. So having in place the processes to deal with that. And obviously, as a team, we want to move forward and win games. If we have a situation where we're being interviewed by media and not going so well, it's about keeping things positive, making sure that the questions that you're given, you somehow put a positive spin on it through good communication. Again, you've got to understand that having respect for the media, they've got a job to do. Sometimes we won't like what they have to say, but you need to communicate in a respectful sense, so that way it's useful for both parties.
Yeah, and I can imagine that when you've got a camera in front of you, you're also taking into consideration the simple aspects of communication, how you're presenting yourself, your pace, the use of language that you do use as well, the speed at which you're speaking, it all goes in, it's all recorded. So is that something that you take into consideration when you're speaking to the media as well?
You do need, I mean, personally for me, I like to talk and like to get my message across, and I say a lot of things. So you have to take yourself back and slow your processes down so you get your point across. Using me is a great tool to get your brand out there as well. So obviously for me, it's going to be different to someone else. So it's always an opportunity that, it's easy to shy away from media, but it's a great communication process that can get your brand out there, which in the when you got a TV audience, like for example the Big Bash, it's an opportunity to get your name out there and show what you want to portray. So for me, I guess my brand would be a typical sort of cricketer that likes to see the outdoors, and any opportunity I get to show that, which is what the Big Bash is about, getting a new audience in and showing different aspects to cricketers, state cricketers particularly. It's a great opportunity to do that. So yeah, techniques to get your point across would be definitely slow your speaking down, using quite simple words, engage the audience, and it can be a very useful thing if you do it correctly.
Okay, lovely. And also sort of in a situation on the field, if things aren't going your way, so to speak, how does the communication between the players and the players and the coaches off the field affect their communication, I guess, when you're not performing to your level of...
It can be very hard as well with big crowds, 30,000 people. It's hard to communicate within the team. I guess you can use hand gestures and that sort of thing. When there's a good rapport within the team, not much needs to be said anyway with your communication. So, for example, if you look at the field and your coach will give you a certain...
It's that trust.
Exactly, it's a trust, and it's knowing that we're all on the same page going towards the same goal. So communication doesn't always have to be verbal. Sometimes it can't be in our profession.
So non-verbal communication be something that you would adopt through the game?
Certainly. When you're batting, your partner's 20 metres away, there's 1,000 people screaming. You got to. Sometimes it can all. I've had situations where you can speak with your eyes almost. It's that mutual respect that you build up through good communication processes off the field. Once you take the field, you know that we're all heading in the same direction and looking to achieve the same goal.
They're reading you and like non-verbally.
Basically.
Lovely. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk to me. I really appreciate it, and now I've got a fair understanding of how you effectively communicate in your profession. Thanks, James.
As well.